The rain had just stopped, leaving behind a faint scent of wet soil and sugarcane drifting through the countryside air. Inside a small house nestled by the fields, Diep sat by the window, her fingers sticky and stained with caramel. On the wooden table before her lay dozens of imperfect candies, some cracked, some melted, a few still holding the shine of what they could have been. Yet in the quiet of that rural evening, her eyes gleamed with something unshaken: determination. She had a dream, to create a handmade candy brand that carried the taste of childhood, the kind of sweetness that could remind people of home. It wasn't about profit or fame, it was about nostalgia, warmth, and belonging. But to everyone else, her dream was nothing more than a foolish fantasy. Candy won't pay the bills, her aunt told her one afternoon, arms folded, voice heavy with practical wisdom. You should find a real job. Even her friends laughed. You're not in a movie, Diep. Who would buy your candy when supermarkets are full of famous brands? The words stung, but she didn't argue. Instead, she turned her silence into work. Every night, she stayed up past midnight, boiling sugar in an old aluminum pot until dawn. The tiny kitchen smelled of burnt sugar and stubborn hope. Her hands blistered. Her eyes turned red from sleepless nights. But her heart refused to surrender. There were nights when loneliness crept in, thick and heavy as the humid air, and the only sound was the slow, sticky bubbling of sugar. On those nights, she wondered if anyone would ever understand what she was trying to build. And then James came along. James wasn't the richest man in town, nor the most romantic. But he possessed something more precious: faith. One evening, he came home to find Diep sitting on the kitchen floor, her failed candies scattered like broken glass. Without a word, he knelt beside her, picked up one burnt piece, and tasted it. A small smile spread across his face. It's sweet, he said softly, just like your dream. If no one believes in it, I will. In that moment, something inside Diep melted. Not from the heat of the caramel, but from the warmth in his voice. For the first time, she believed her dream might not be impossible after all. From that night onward, everything began to shift, not with fireworks, but with the slow, steady rise of dawn after a storm. James became her first and most loyal supporter. Every morning, before leaving for his own job, he helped her peel fruits, measure sugar, wrap candies one by one. Their kitchen was cramped, the air heavy with sweetness, and the sound of boiling sugar filled every corner. But within those sticky walls, they found happiness, quiet, humble, real. James often told her, dreams don't start big. They start here, with burnt pots and tired hands. those words became her strength. Diep began recording every recipe in a notebook. The boiling time, the honey ratio, the flavors that made people smile. Still, failure came often. Her first batch for the local market melted under the afternoon sun. Children said the candies were too hard. A shopkeeper dismissed them entirely, saying, "They don't look professional." That night, Diep sat in silence, her spirit heavy with defeat, but James wasn't ready to let her give up. He took her hand and said, "Do you know why I believe in you? Because you care about what you make." That's something money can't buy. We'll fix the recipe. We'll learn together. They experimented for weeks, laughing at their own mistakes. Candies burned, wrappers peeled, sugar refused to melt evenly. Yet, little by little, things began to improve. Diep's candies became softer, prettier, more inviting. One afternoon, as she returned to the market, a little girl tugged at her mother's sleeve and whispered, "Mom, can I have one of the pretty candies again?" That small voice made Diep's eyes fill with tears. For the first time, their dream tasted like success. Weeks turned into months. Slowly, word spread through the village about the woman who made candies that tasted like childhood, like home, like love. People didn't just buy her sweets. They came to meet her, to hear her story, to see the sincerity in her eyes. They saw her and James, working side by side in that tiny kitchen, creating something beautiful out of almost nothing. James often watched from afar, a soft smile on his face, seeing in her the same dreamer who once sat by the river, sketching ideas in her notebook. He never said it aloud, but with every passing day, his admiration deepened. But success, even small success, always invites new tests. One day, a large confectionery company reached out. They had heard about Diep's handmade candies and wanted to collaborate. In truth, they wanted to buy her recipes and brand, to mass produce what had once been made by her hands. The offer was tempting. The money could change their lives overnight. "What do you want to do?" James asked gently. Diep hesitated. "Part of me wants to accept, so you won't have to work so hard. But another part of me feels, this is just the beginning." "If I sell my dream now, what will be left of it?" That night, they stayed awake, talking under the faint hum of the ceiling fan. James never tried to convince her either way. He just said, "Whatever choice you make, I'll stand by you." You built this dream with your heart. Don't let fear decide its future. The next morning, Diep wrote a short letter thanking the company for their interest, but declining the offer. When she handed it to James, she smiled faintly. "I'm not ready to sell my dream. Not yet." James wrapped his arms around her. "That's my Diep," he whispered, "the woman who believes, even when no one else does." Months passed. The small candy business began to thrive beyond their wildest hopes. Diep's sweets became a symbol of something deeper: authenticity, warmth, and resilience, in a world that was forgetting what handmade meant. Children giggled as they tasted her caramel drops. Couples shared chocolate hearts wrapped in paper notes. Old neighbors smiled, saying, "These candies taste like the days we used to dream." Through every storm, James remained her anchor. When shipments were delayed or batches melted in the heat, Diep panicked. But James stayed calm. "It's all right, love," he'd whisper. "Dreams take time to ripen, just like love." And somehow, those words always gave her the strength to keep going. Then came an unexpected letter, an invitation to the National Entrepreneurship Forum. Diep had been nominated for Inspirational Businesswoman of the Year. She was stunned. The same girl who once sold homemade candies by the roadside was now being recognized across the country. That night, as she stood under the bright stage lights, her hands trembled. But her voice was steady. "I started this journey with nothing but a small dream, and a man who believed in me when no one else did." People laughed. They said it was foolish. But belief, real belief, can turn even the smallest spark into a flame. The audience erupted in applause. James, sitting in the front row, didn't clap right away. He just smiled, a smile heavy with love, pride, and the quiet ache of years spent believing when no one else would. That night, walking home under the Golden City lights, Diep looked up at him and whispered, "If you hadn't believed in me, none of this would have happened." James smiled softly. "You're wrong, Diep. I didn't just believe in you, I believed in us. In what love can do when two people refuse to give up." Under the glow of streetlights and the soft scent of sugar still clinging to her hands, Diep realized something profound. The candies she made were no longer just sweets. Each piece carried her sleepless nights, her courage, her stubborn hope, and his faith. They were pieces of a dream shaped by two hearts that refused to surrender. No one had believed in her dream. No one, except James, the man who never gave up.